Friends, do you know that Christians have been appointed as ambassadors of Jesus Christ and of the kingdom of God and ambassadors of God? Let us turn to 2 Corinthians 5, verses 20. Now then, we are ambassadors of Christ, as though God were pleading through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. For he made him who knew sin, no sin, to be sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God in him. So, friends, the ministry of reconciliation that is mentioned here, we are supposed to proclaim it to the world as ambassadors of Jesus Christ. Now, the question is, what is an ambassador? Let us answer that question. Now, William Bartley says this about ambassadors: the man who brings to others the terms of God, whereby they can become citizens of his kingdom and members of his family. William Bartley says, number one, an ambassador of Britain, as an example, is a Briton in a foreign land. His life is spent among people who usually speak a different language, who have a different tradition, who follow a different way of life. The Christian is always like that. He lives in the world. He takes part in all life and work of the world. But he is a citizen of heaven. To that extent, he is a stranger. The man who is not willing to be different cannot be a Christian at all. And secondly, he says, an ambassador speaks for his own country. When a British ambassador speaks, his voice is the voice of Britain. There are times when the Christian has to speak for Christ. Thirdly, the honor of a country is in its ambassador's hands. His country is judged by him. His words are listened to. His deeds are watched, and people say, this is the way such and such a country speaks and acts. The ambassador, while acting, acts not only as an agent, but as a representative of his sovereign. The ambassador's duty is not only to deliver a definite message, to carry out a definite policy, but he is obliged to watch opportunities, to study characters, to cast about for expedients, so that he may place it before his hearers in its most attractive form. It is the great responsibility of the ambassador to commend his country to the men amongst whom he is set. Here is the Christian's proud privilege and almost terrifying responsibility. The honor of Christ and of the church are in his hands, but his every word and action he can make men think more or less of his church and of his master. So, friends, you can see that uh, Christians, as ambassadors of God, ambassadors of Jesus Christ, ambassadors of the kingdom of God, they have to represent their country well, represent the laws of their country, represent the character of their country, and not conform to the country which they are living in. But they must be able to be identified that they are of a different country with by representing the character of the country which they're coming from. Now, friends, the last question is, are we ambassadors? Are you an ambassador? Yes, we are ambassadors of the kingdom of God. We are ambassadors of Jesus Christ. We are supposed to present the traditions, the cultures, the characters, the laws, and the ways of our country to other countries that we are living in here on earth. God is calling people from all the nations, and Christians are supposed to present the kingdom of God to all the nations around the world. So, friends, just as there are ambassadors for every country, ambassador for Britain, ambassador for America, ambassador for Saudi Arabia, ambassador for South Africa, ambassador for Zimbabwe. A Christian is also an ambassador wherever he lives of the kingdom of God. And the Christian must represent the traditions, the culture, the laws, and the ways of his country, and actually left them as an example so that the people can be able to identify that this person is different from us. He's a stranger in our country, in the same way as Abraham was a stranger in the land of Canaan.